think we'll get going. So hi and welcome to Walkthrough Wednesday. Thank you for joining us. My name's Nikki Horwood and I'm the CMO at Sharktower, and joining me today is Lynsey, and let me hand to Lynsey to introduce herself.
Oh, thank you. So I'm the Chief Customer Officer and one of the co-founders of Sharktower, and I'll be taking on a tour of Sharktower today.
Thanks, Lynsey. So over the last 6 weeks, we've been giving you really short tasters of some of the features and capabilities of Sharktower, but we've had quite a lot of requests for a full demo. So today we're going to take you on an access all areas tour. This session is being recorded and we'll share it via YouTube and our website. There will be a question and answer session at the end. So please submit your questions via chat throughout the whole session, and then we can open it up at the end to you. So with that, let's dive in and I'll hand over to you, Lynsey.
Thank you. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes.
Wonderful. So what I wanted to do was take you guys on a bit of a tour in terms of a sort of day or morning in the life of a user. So I'll start with a sort of project manager type user. I'm delivering a project with Sharktower. Where do I go first? So I would start in the morning with my homepage. I can see here some key insights on what's going on across the portfolio, which projects are, are red, which ones have got a lot of incomplete activities going on them. So that's a real kind of helps me identify where I might want to focus. I can also see, what else is going on at a lower level across the portfolio. So I can see kind of who's working on what. I can see Craig, who's supposed to be full-time on my project, is maybe working on a few other things as well. So I can easily kind of look into that, tag him, and find out what the impact on my project might be. So all of that communication is kind of contained within Sharktower. I can see what meetings I've got coming up today, and then the kind of most important part for me, because I like to be organized, is right, what are the absolute must-dos that I need to do today? So this gives me an overview of everything across all projects that I need to be working on, and I can very quickly say, well, actually I'm blocked on that. James is off today, so can't speak to him anyway, but the 3 things that I really must do are this one, and this one. And it just really helps with that kind of focus. So I've always got a lot of stuff going on. There's always lots of things in my Kanban that I need to be working through, but this helps me say, right, what are the absolute must-dos today? And I've always got those here to look at, away from all the noise of everything that's going on in my kind of overall to-do list. Once I've kind of organized that and got my view of my day, I would go into, say, the main project that I manage. So obviously at the beginning of the day we have a stand-up, so I would use the stand-up tool in Sharktower to run that. So obviously stand-ups are generally about, what did you do yesterday, what have you got coming up today, are you blocked? And Sharktower just gives me this nice view of what everyone's working on. Got a list of people here to make sure I don't forget anyone, and I can just really quickly see who's got what on their plate. And I can also see who's blocked as well. So these little icons here will tell me that these people are probably, need a bit more attention in the stand-up, and we need to talk through what's blocking them. I can also capture tasks throughout. So maybe I need to sort out a laptop for Biro. That's why there's no work on his plate in this Kanban. So I can, assign that to myself to make sure that I get that done. And then, you can carry on like that. So going person by person, understanding what each person's got on their plate, and, capturing actions, anything else that's decided throughout. So the Sharktower meetings tool is generally about that. It's about having that single source of what do we agree on? A project is so often made up of meetings. What were the things that we decided? Who took which actions? You've always got that view then. So in this stand-up one, I can see, I can talk about who did and didn't attend. I would have any other actions or decisions that I captured here, and I can email that out to everyone. So that means that everyone gets that same view of what was agreed. So it's not just stand-ups. There's obviously loads of other meetings that always happen on projects, and it just really helps have that kind of single source of understanding what was agreed in the meeting, you know, what was agreed historically. I'm not relying on people capturing their own actions in their notepad. We're not storing a meeting log somewhere separate from Sharktower. It's all contained within one place. So I can also see the history of every meeting. So in this one, I can see what was agreed and what was decided in previous iterations of that meeting. So really just sort of helps you keep track of what was agreed and decided in meetings. After I've had my stand up, the next thing I would do is review my plan. So obviously I kind of live and breathe this plan. It's my project. I'm very aware of how everything fits together. But what the plan visualization in Sharktower helps me do is communicate that to other people. So I can very clearly see the kind of high level phases. Each of these boxes outlines what's happening when. So I've got my data warehouse part of the plan, I've got my digital part, and then each of the lines is essentially a piece of work. The color tells you what team's delivering it. So with that, with all of these dependencies, sorry, these nodes, I can see where the dependencies are on the project, which teams are dependent on each other, how does it all hang together, and I can see the kind of key milestones that we're working towards. So it really helps me as a project manager communicate to my team. So anyone new that I onboard to my project, I can explain how their work fits into the bigger picture, why we're here, what we're aiming towards. And for stakeholders, I can also walk them through a bit more of the detail rather than having to produce constant plans on a page every time the plan changes, which is probably daily. You know, I'm not having to keep reproducing that PowerPoint deck based on my Microsoft project file, which is 600 lines long and I love, but no one else can decipher. It's a real kind of unified view of the plan. So what I would do is kind of zoom in a bit. This line here is my today line. It's telling me where we are. Time is running left to right. And I can kind of see, you know, what's been completed recently and then any slippages as well. So if I click on this piece of work, I can also break that down further. So this has been slipped for a while. And I can see that someone's raised an issue against it, but there's been no further updates on that. So I can always this sends an email notification, an email and an in-app notification. So I can say to Becca, any update on this, and just kind of remind her that we do need to know what's going on with this. Are we going to need to change the plan because of the slippage? So it really helps me because I can see everything in one place and understand how this piece of work would break down further. If we did need to make changes to the plan, it's a very simple edit. You know, this is essentially a drawing tool like any other. So let's say, you know, I'd agreed with the rest of the team that actually we needed to move all of these activities out and we're okay with this milestone going a bit past. I can shift those along, or perhaps I know that it's just, you know, this part is the only part that needs to shrink. You know, that's where the slack lies. I can also do those updates. So it's really easy for me to see what impact that slippage might have on things further down the plan, and to talk that through with my team as well. So I might make any plan changes that I, you know, knew that we could make without talking to the team, and then, you know, carry on kind of down this today line, reviewing progress against all the different activities and looking for anywhere that might need a bit more support. I can also see where I've got project dependencies on other projects, or they've got dependencies on me. So I might particularly focus on this. So this is telling me that I've got an incoming dependency. So this other project is dependent on us completing this activity, but actually there's some slippage beforehand. I can see with this kind of big red node here that actually something might go wrong there. So again, I can try and preempt those things going wrong and this other project being dependent on us and anything going wrong there. So the other thing to kind of talk about in this area, if I did want a lower level view, so if I wanted to, let's say, explore this activity further, it slipped, there's a bunch of kind of lower level scope captured underneath it. So if I wanted to know a bit more about what was going on there, I can also look at the Kanban view. So this helps me see kind of what's in progress, what's completed, where are we at with everything. This is typically where I would expect my team members to be working. They can easily kind of drag and drop and mark their work as complete, or add comments throughout. But it's just a slightly different view, of a lower level view of the scope on my project. So I've also got this view. I've got the same kind of functionality as elsewhere. I can still tag people in comments, you know, do the requesting updates, mark things as blocked, that kind of thing. So it's just a different level of the view of what's going on in my project. The other thing that I might do in the morning to check on my team, on my project, is look at the current sentiment score and the health score of the project. So what you're seeing here is essentially the project highlight reports. Again, rather than me, the project manager, having to have created this based on progress against our plan, you know, recently completed work coming up, what are the key milestones that we're working on, what are those statuses, it's all here. It's all pulled through from the other areas of Sharktower. So I've got a really kind of quick, clear, real-time view of that, which my stakeholders can engage with and kind of drill down and find out more if they want to. So if I were wanting to look at the sentiment score of my team, let's say, I can click on this and I can look at the trend there. So this essentially is uses natural language processing across all of the free text in Sharktower. So you've seen on each of the items I clicked on, pieces of scope, activities, tasks, risks, issues, everyone can comment and tag each other and kind of have that contextual conversation on that piece of scope, if you like. All of that feeds this model, and it uses natural language processing to understand a team sentiment overall across the whole team. This is very much just an indicator. It's meant to augment my understanding of what's going on in the project. Historically, in the past, maybe I would be in the same room as my team, so I wouldn't necessarily need a score to tell me their sentiment. But you know, in this kind of remote working world, actually, it's quite useful to keep an eye on things. You know, are people's tones changing? Are they kind of using different terminology and wording and tone, really, to express themselves within their working world? And can I do anything about that? So I'm really just looking for a downward trend here. That might be what causes alarm. And then I get some key kind of influences as to what might be causing the current score. So it's really helpful for me as a project manager when I'm not quite as connected to my team. For stakeholders, it's also really useful because often they are never connected to their team. You know, they're so far removed from the people on the ground doing the work, and actually those are the people that really know what's going on. So as a stakeholder, I would probably want that you know, the heads up that no one was really engaged anymore, no one really believed in the project or was bought in, because that's the thing that I ultimately need to know. I would also check my health score of my project. So obviously, you know, I, as a project manager, have marked this project as red because of some resource absence. But it's also useful, especially on a big program like this with all the dependencies that you saw on the plan, to understand what the data underlying the project is telling us. So how fast is stuff getting completed? Are we kind of changing the rate at which we're working? Is there a lot of blockage across the plan? And again, it's an indicator. It's meant to augment my understanding of the project. And I'm looking for that downward trend. That's what's going to cause me to potentially investigate further. And again, I've got my key influences of what might have caused that. And as with everything in Sharktower, I can drill down, find out more, kind of click on that item. So that's sort of as a single project manager in charge of this one delivery of this one project. If I were perhaps a portfolio manager or program manager, I'm, let's say, in charge of or accountable for the delivery of multiple projects. Let's say it's division A. So here I can see all of my projects at once. So this is a really invaluable view that sadly a lot of those portfolio managers kind of roles don't have necessarily. They don't have everything in one place because everyone's managing their project slightly differently. You've got this agile project over here working in Jira. You've got someone else doing it in a slightly different style in a different tool. With Sharktower, you can still, you know, the underlying project can be managed whatever way you want. Use agile methodology if you want, whatever methodology you're using. The sort of plan drawing is completely agnostic to how you set it up, but at least I can see all of my projects in one place, no matter what the underlying methodology is. So here I've got one tile per project. I can see at a glance the different RAG statuses. I can also filter by those. Perhaps I trust my project managers and I know that those green projects are green. But if I don't, what this helps me do is understand where to focus. So who do I go and help first? Who do I give more resource to or more money to? So the kind of indicators I might look out for here would be this project that's reporting green, but there's a lot of slippage in the plan here. The sort of next upcoming milestone is quite overdue. I might also look for, in this instance here, we've got sort of summary of what's been done recently, what's coming up. But if we did 2 tasks and 0 stories last week, do we really think we're going to be able to do 9 tasks and 7 stories this week? So it's just sort of helping me piece together the different pieces of information in Sharktower and understand where I might want to focus and which project I might want to go and speak to first. So it gives me that little bit more confidence in terms of kind of what's going on across the portfolio. The other thing that gives me some confidence, let's say a new project came into my portfolio and I really wanted to make sure that all my projects are kind of set off in the same way. So I can have a template that all of my project managers use to create their projects. So if I really want to enforce a kind of, every project must start by defining the value goals of that project. Why are they doing it? What's the kind of business rationale behind it? Have we done the stakeholder mapping? Have we defined our resource profile? Have we completed all the mobilization documents? All of those kind of basic things that you would expect a project to have in place, but often things spiral out of control and the project just kicks off without necessarily having done some of that groundwork. If you wanted to perhaps enforce some cadence, so sensible things like a daily stand-up and a weekly delivery review, you can make sure that all of that is captured in the meeting. So just gives me that bit of kind of confidence that every project is going to get started in the best way possible, because everyone's going to use this template to create their project from. Also, if I were starting a new project, I might want to map out the resource profile I need. So I can very easily do that in here. Let's say I know that I've got Becca on my project, and then I've got sort of a few other roles that I know I need, but I'm not quite sure who's going to do them yet. So I just want to map that out so I've got that picture. So let's say I know that Becca is going to be full-time doing some business development work from today for the rest of the month. So I can add that in. And let's say I know that I need a BA at the beginning of the project and then not necessarily at the end. So I can quickly kind of get this work captured in here so that I can share with stakeholders, this is the role profile, the kind of team profile that I'm going to need. Perhaps I only need a PM part-time, so I can also do that. So when I add the allocation here, I can specify that that's only part-time. So I can kind of map out that role profile just to make sure it's clear what resources I need on that project. So that was most of kind of what I wanted to show you from that portfolio manager point of view. I guess it's also worth touching on the more of a business stakeholder view. So another lens through which I can enter into specific projects is through the objectives. So in let's say the world that I live in, I've got the quarterly objectives that we've set as a business, and those really were what defined the projects that we wanted to do this quarter or this year. So from my point of view, and in the role that I'm playing as a business stakeholder, that's the lens that I care about. I want to see things from an objective point of view. We've got this objective to increase our operational efficiency, and these are the projects, the outcomes on the projects which are going to help me achieve that goal ultimately. So I can see, great, some of them are completed. However, I can also see that some things at risk. And it just means that I can get that kind of immediate live delivery assurance, understanding of what's going on. So rather than waiting for a report to land in my inbox, a week or a month after something's gone wrong, I can immediately see in here. This is real time. I can drill down into that project, and I can get the context of what's happened here, and I can see where that slippage is occurring and where the risk is. And it just helps me as a sort of business stakeholder, again, understand where I might want to be focusing my attention or my time. So that was, I think, everything that I wanted to show you. Appreciate that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Were there any questions?
Thank you, Lynsey. I think you addressed it earlier on, but there was a question on how's the tool used from a team member, a user's perspective.
Cool, yeah, absolutely, yes. So I didn't really do that persona. And obviously, they make up a lot of the project team. So I would typically expect them to ideally engage with the overview page. I want them to, this business objective here is that link that you saw just now, and that's the reason this project exists. That's why they're doing what they're doing. They should be, every decision they're making every day should be prioritized against this like original business goal. And you know, this gives them an understanding of what's going on in the project. Ideally, I would also expect them to engage a bit with the plan. You know, if they're perhaps working in the testing work stream, then I would like them to understand the bigger picture so that they can point out, well, hang on, actually that needs to be done in a different order. You've misunderstood something here, because they're the people that know the detail. So I would like them to engage with the plan as well. But a lot of their day-to-day kind of time spent in Sharktower, I'd expect to mostly be in the Kanban. So they would perhaps filter by the sprint that they were working on, or maybe they would filter by just assigned to them. They can also do that in the My Kanban area, and they can kind of, this is where they would do that work. So again, as I said earlier, sort of dragging and dropping, marking stuff as complete, adding comments as to how things are progressing. Perhaps something's blocked. Why is it blocked? Well, it's blocked because there's another task that I'm waiting on, so I can link that task to kind of convey why I'm blocked, and I can always add that commentary in there. So I expect a lot of their work to be done in here. They obviously will also be the recipients of the notifications I was mentioning earlier. So when I, the project manager, am tagging my team saying, what's the update on this? Where are we at with this? They're going to be on the receiving end of that. So they're going to be receiving notifications in here and on the mobile app as well. So back in the old commuting days, we did sort of see that people would you know, check in on the mobile app, right, what are the tasks that I've got on today, and kind of update on there what they were doing. So that's most of the work that they would do. And then potentially also whoever's capturing the minutes in a meeting, they might be the one kind of adding the actions throughout a meeting as well. So hopefully that makes it clear from a team member point of view. Obviously they are absolutely core and key to a project, and that's most of where I'd expect them to be operating in Sharktower.
Cool, thank you. We had one earlier on in the session. Is there a separate view of issues, i.e. one place to see all issues to address and remove blockages?
So on this project there is, yes. So I can, if I clear all of my filters here, this is testing our demo data now, I can filter by just issues, of which there are several on this project, and I can see all of the issues against this project. If I wanted to see the risks as well, I've also got that view. The other sort of beauty of having effectively a RAID log in Sharktower is that you can really have the mitigation actions captured as genuine actions. So rather than a spreadsheet that's sitting somewhere on its own, making sure that we're kind of keeping an eye on risks and making sure someone's you know, doing the intended mitigation steps, it's actually in here in Sharktower, so everyone can see, okay, in order to mitigate this risk, the action that we're taking to mitigate that is this one. It's an actual object within Sharktower that you can engage with and tag people and understand more. So that's also a really useful kind of way of having it in Sharktower. The fact that I can raise that risk against that part of the plan, it's really clear how that all links together. It's probably worth also mentioning a very soon to be released feature is a view of those risks and issues across all of the projects as well. So obviously, if I were working on more than one, or if I'm a portfolio manager, and again, I'm trying to work out where to focus, that view is going to be really helpful to me as well.
Great, thank you. How does the system deal with individual resource availability, e.g. absences due to holidays or spreading resources across projects?
What I can see in here, so if anyone is working on another project, I would be able to see that in here. So I can see that kind of other allocation in another little, if you like, pill that's displayed on this screen. Holiday, I mean, generally we would sort of block that out in here in terms of the time as well. But one of the things that is coming up next is that kind of individual view. So what else is Ewan working on? When are those holidays coming up? And like, can I see that they're over allocated, under allocated? So that is the kind of next iteration of this feature, to be able to see that that individual view.
Wonderful, thank you. Back over to portfolios. Do we have the capability to schedule a portfolio and constrain it by time or cost or resource?
Say that again?
Do you have the capability to schedule a portfolio and constrain it by time, cost or resource?
So we've got a few ways of kind of doing that. So in terms of that pre-planning, so obviously often you've got like a whole backlog of projects you want to do, and it's about when are we going to do them and how. So in what we see some customers do is effectively create a separate grouping of projects, a portfolio if you like, which is the ideation phase projects, and then the projects which are coming up in future might be in a separate different one, which is your active projects. So sometimes we see that kind of separation where it can be clear which projects are on our backlog and which ones are we actively working on. It means you can also start to do some of that definition and scope kind of working out in Sharktower with the projects that are ideation stage. We can also, so something we did for another customer was we can pull out a view that has that kind of almost roadmap understanding of, right, let's say it's a year-long view and you've got basically a Gantt chart of kind of when each project is occurring, so you can really see when all those dates are and kind of what clashes with what. So some of our customers have found that really useful as well, to have that time-based view, because at the moment in here what you see is more of a kind of current projects in flight view.
Great, thank you. And I think this is the last one. How can you apply this to Scrum?
So as I said earlier, I mean, it's all completely Sharktower is completely agnostic to the methodology that you're using. So we see loads of different usages. We see some people not using the plan at all. So if they were working in a sort of Kanban way and just churning through work, then they might perhaps just use the Kanban, not have a plan that they're working around because they're just kind of working through work. So you can work in that way and just have the low level scope in here. You can have kind of backlog items. So stories don't have to have an assignee or a due date. So that's how you'd manage your backlog, because you'd have all of those kind of ideas or things that you didn't quite know who was going to pick it up or when. You manage that by having that kind of those stories captured in your not started column. And when you do use stories and complexity points, you then get a burn down chart in the plan. So it's kind of set up to be able to do Agile or Scrum or Kanban, other methodologies. But in terms of how you use Sharktower, we're very keen not to have constraints in Sharktower, because what we've seen in terms of other tools is that just turns people off. People stop using it because they're so constrained they can't do it the way they want to. So they either stop using it or they start using kind of bad practice workarounds. So there's nothing forcing you to have a plan. There's nothing forcing you to have the lower level scope. And in terms of how you draw out the plan, again, you could have very long activities, very short activities, no outcomes. There's kind of however you want to set it up. It's up to you. It should work for any methodology, really.
Nice, thank you. Another question, is there a way for the software to interact with Microsoft Teams at this stage?
So what we've seen other customers do, so in Teams, you can actually set up a tab with a link to a website. So Sharktower is a cloud-based sort of web application. So we've seen customers have, their Teams channel and then a tab which has Sharktower embedded within it to ensure that they kind of, obviously you're having all of your project chat in Teams, but actually Sharktower is right there with the scope in it. Ideally, what we want is for the project chats to be centered in Sharktower. And we have also seen people switch over to that because a conversation in Teams can get very noisy and there's a lot of probably parallel kind of conversations going on. People are talking about two different topics at once. So how do we mitigate that? Well, if you were in Sharktower, then you can be talking about creating technical specifications for the cloud solution at the same time as you're having a conversation with someone else about reviewing shared drives. So it kind of helps with that contextual conversation because it's all still in here. If you're tagging people, it is basically like a chat. So yeah, that's the kind of way that we see people integrating at the moment, but we want to encourage, and people usually do come around to that way of thinking because it's just easier. The kind of communication happens within Sharktower, but obviously recognize that does take some time.
Great, thank you. We got a data storage question. Is the system and data stored locally in cloud? And what about security? Some key commercially sensitive projects being on cloud may make execs nervous.
Sorry, may make who nervous?
Executives nervous.
So yes, it's cloud-based. It's AWS, so it's sort of very reputable. We have externally done penetration tests quite often, and that, you know, we do often get asked for that by our customers when we're going through procurement. So yeah, I'm not worried about security. It's you know, a well-established kind of provider that we're using, and yeah, we have those regular pen tests just to make sure that we are obviously complying with everything. So generally that kind of procurement step, which usually then alleviates concerns that execs might have, is kind of seamless for us.
Cool, thank you. And I think that this is my favorite question. Thanks, Valerie. How can we work with third parties? Can we add external and or guest users?
Yes, I also love that question. So absolutely, yes, please do. So with Sharktower, we really believe that collaboration is going to be the best way you're going to deliver your project. The whole point is that it's the single source of the truth. So not just internally, you know, Joe Blogs having his own notepad and someone else having their post-it note wall. It's also about, right, what about the suppliers, the third parties, everyone who is contributing to the project should see Sharktower as a source of the truth, should be able to access it, should be able to comment, you know, add their own tasks, that sort of thing. So absolutely, the idea is that you get the entire project team collaborating within Sharktower. And actually that's the way that we license as well. So we don't do per seat licensing because we know that it means you're going to go, well, that stakeholder's probably never going to log in, or that supplier's only doing this like 1 week piece of work, so we just won't bother paying for them to have a seat, which makes sense if you were doing that per seat licensing. So we do not do that because we don't want to discourage you from adding absolutely everyone on the project onto the project. So it has been used for a, goodness, I don't know, 10, 15 supplier project where it was a really big sort of multi-year program. And it was just so helpful because it was the only place that all of those suppliers could access. So not just the customer or the people that were running the project, but also all the suppliers. There were shared drives, there was intranets, no one could see each other's calendars, but the one place that everyone could see was Sharktower because obviously it's just access via the web. So that absolutely, you know, made that project successful. So yes, please add all of your third parties and suppliers.
Thank you. So we have no further questions. So let me close on the final slide. If I can just take back control, Lynsey. Sure. Thank you. Let me just share my screen. So I hope you've enjoyed the session. Thank you for your questions. Great set of questions. If you want to see more, pop along to sharktower.com and you can request a personalized one-to-one demonstration, and we can talk about your specific needs, or you can just start a trial and then have a go, and also come along and read some of our news and views. So I shall leave you with the thank you slide. So thanks again for attending. I'm going to close the session now, but hopefully we'll hear from you soon. Thank you
very much, guys.
Bye.